These chocolate chip biscottis are perfect. They're crunchy on the outside and nice and chewy on the inside. These are my husband's favorite. I'm making them for him, and they're great to dip in a cup of coffee. Start with 10 tablespoons of butter and go ahead and cream that out. And then you're going to add one and a third cup of sugar, and go ahead and mix it up till it's nice and fluffy. And then we're going to add 3 eggs, number two, and then number three. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I only added one in the view here, but I did go back and add another teaspoon for that extra flavor. And then once you have that, you're going to stir it all up till it's nice and creamy and fluffy and nice and incorporated. And I like to sift my flour, and I just like using this mesh sieve here. It's just a lot easier to throw it in the dishwasher after and clean it. But instead of using 2 bowls, I'm just using 1 because that's how I do it. But I'm gonna go ahead and sift the first 2 cups of flour, and then in that last cup is where I'm gonna add the baking powder and salt. The recipe for the ingredients is listed in the captions. Once I have the baking powder and salt mixed in with the flour, I'm gonna go ahead and sift the rest of this. And then we're gonna stir to combine it. And you can hand stir it like I'm doing. You can use a stand mixer, a hand mixer, whatever your preference. This isn't a dough that needs a lot of air incorporated into it, so hand stirring is just fine, but you do as you do, and I do as I do. And then once we have it all together, we're gonna add a half a cup of nuts. In this case, I'm using almonds. I'm using slivered almonds. You can chop them yourself. You can also use pecans, walnuts, whatever nuts you like. Or if you don't have to use nuts if you don't like those. And then I'm gonna add a half a cup of chocolate chips. And I like getting this really huge bag at Costco because I go through a lot of chocolate chips. And I also like adding some shaved chocolate to that. So I'm using about a third a cup of some dark chocolate just to give it that mix of different chocolate flavors. And then once we have that sort of chopped up roughly, we're gonna add that in our bowl. And then we're gonna mix that till it's incorporated again. And then use some parchment paper or a silpat mat, whatever you want, on like a large baking sheet. And we're gonna kind of pull that out. And then maybe with lightly floured hands, you don't need a whole lot. You can actually sort of flatten that out with your hands. Sort of, we want like a rectangle shape, about a half inch high. And then you can use a rolling pin, but it's really not necessary. And I'm just gonna kind of keep making it till it forms a rectangle. And then we're gonna bake it at 350 for 20 minutes. And then when it comes out, we're gonna let it cool for about 10 minutes. And then we're gonna slice these into logs. And actually, this recipe was one of those recipes I've made hundreds of times, and this dough was a little soft on me, so I was having a little trouble cutting the logs, but it still works out fine. All you have to do is bake it a little longer, let it dry out. And actually, you can cut these logs in half if you are having trouble moving them around, and they're still just as delicious. And all I'm doing is kind of giving each one a little space. I'm gonna pop it back in the oven at 250 for about 20 more minutes, and now you have delicious biscotti to enjoy. Just as good warm as they are cold the next day.